Have you ever been made to feel small? Have you ever been looked down on, dismissed, or judged simply because of the job you do or the clothes you wear? If you have, then you know the sting of being invisible. They screamed at me in the middle of the lobby, calling me a clumsy, worthless old man. I was begging them to listen, to just give me a chance to explain, with dozens of their colleagues watching my humiliation. But they had no idea that the quiet woman observing from the glass-walled balcony above, the one whose gentle face I knew better than my own was hardening into a mask of cold fury, was not only my wife. She was the owner of the entire billion-dollar company they worked for. They thought they were firing a janitor. They were about to end their careers. My name is Arthur, and for the last 5 years, I've been a janitor at Innovate Dynamics. It's not a glamorous job, but it's an honest one. I find a simple, quiet satisfaction in my work. There's a rhythm to it, a sense of restoring order. Polishing the vast marble floors until they reflect the ceiling lights like a still, dark lake. Wiping away the smudges and fingerprints from the glass doors, making them disappear. Ensuring the spaces where brilliant people did brilliant things were clean and ready for them. I saw myself as the foundation, the unseen support that allowed the real work to happen. I never asked for thanks, and I rarely got it. A polite nod was a good day. Most days, I was just part of the furniture, a ghost with a mop and bucket. I didn't mind the invisibility. What hurt were the moments people made sure I knew my place. The ringleader was a man named Marcus Vance, the vice president of marketing. He was a man tailored in expensive suits, with a smile that never quite reached his cold, assessing eyes. To him, I wasn't a person, I was an obstacle, a function. He'd walk past me and drop a crumpled napkin a foot from the bin, saying, "Job security for you, old-timer," with a wink to his entourage. His primary sycophant was Clarice Jennings, a senior manager, who mimicked his cruelty with a chilling enthusiasm. She once spilled half a latte on the floor, and, instead of apologizing, she'd sighed dramatically and said, "Oh, Arthur. A little spill on aisle 3, as if I were a clean-up machine in a supermarket." Then there was Kevin, a young man so desperate to climb the corporate ladder that he'd do anything to curry favor with them, which usually meant joining in on the casual mockery. These weren't grand acts of evil. They were small, daily cuts, designed to remind me that I was beneath them. An elevator door closing just as I reached it. Laughter that would die down as I entered a room. The way they'd talk over me, or through me, as if I wasn't there at all. I never retaliated. I never complained. I'd just offer a quiet, "Excuse me," and go about my work. What would be the point? They held all the power, and I was just the man who cleaned their toilets. I learned to build a wall around my heart, to let the remarks slide off me. But every night, I'd carry the weight of it home. Home was my sanctuary. Home was Alara. My wife of 30 years was the light of my life, the kindest, most brilliant soul I had ever known. When I walked through our front door, the grime of the day would melt away. She'd be there, maybe tending to her orchids or reading a book, and her smile would make me feel like the most important man in the world. She'd listen as I recounted my day, not the specifics of the insults, but the general weariness. I'd try to shield her from the worst of it. I didn't want their ugliness to touch her. She'd listen patiently, her hand resting on mine, her expression thoughtful. "They don't see the man I see, Artie," she would say, her voice a soothing balm. "Their world is so small they can only measure a person by their title." I didn't know the half of it. I thought she was just being a loving wife. I had no idea she was speaking from a position of immense power, watching over a kingdom I didn't even know she ruled. She had inherited her father's vast tech empire years ago, but she always kept her professional life separate. She managed her global business from a quiet home office, and to me, she was just my Alara. She insisted I keep my job, saying it gave me a sense of purpose and kept me grounded. I now realize she had another reason, She wanted to see her world from the ground up, through my eyes. The tension in the office had been building for weeks. Innovate Dynamics was on the verge of launching its most ambitious product yet, the Nexus Sphere, a revolutionary piece of home technology. Marcus Vance was heading the launch, and the pressure was making him more volatile than ever. He strode through the halls like a ticking time bomb, barking orders and belittling anyone who couldn't keep up. The day of the big press conference was electric with a nervous energy that I could feel even from the quiet corners I occupied. My job was simple: keep everything looking pristine. The lobby, where the world's media would soon gather, had to be flawless. I was polishing the chrome fixtures on the main reception desk, trying to stay out of the way, when the chaos erupted. A frantic-looking engineer rushed up to Marcus, whispering something in his ear. Marcus's face, already taut with stress, turned a blotchy, furious red. "What do you mean it's not there?" he roared, his voice echoing through the cavernous lobby. "It was on the pedestal 10 minutes ago." Panic spread like a virus. They were talking about the final prototype of the Nexus Sphere, the one they were meant to unveil in less than an hour. Teams of people started scrambling, checking under tables, behind curtains. Marcus's eyes darted around the room, wild with fury, looking for someone to blame. And then they landed on me. He strode over, his expensive shoes clicking menacingly on the marble I had just polished. Clarice and Kevin flanked him like vultures. "You," he spat, pointing a trembling finger at my chest. "The janitor. You were the only one over here." "Where is it?" My blood ran cold. I could feel dozens of pairs of eyes turning towards me. "Sir? I don't know what you're talking about," I stammered, my heart hammering against my ribs. "I was just cleaning." "I didn't touch anything on the display," Clarice scoffed, a venomous little sound. "Oh, please. Look at him. He probably knocked it over with his clumsy cart, and was too scared to say anything. Or maybe he thought it was a shiny new bowling ball," Kevin chimed in, eager to please. "Yeah, check his trash can. He probably thought it was garbage and threw it out." The accusation was absurd, but in their panic, it became a plausible reality. They needed a scapegoat, and the old, invisible janitor was the perfect target. "Empty your cart," Marcus commanded, his voice low and dangerous. Now I felt a profound sense of shame wash over me. I was a 60-year-old man, being treated like a child, a criminal, in front of all these people. My voice trembled as I pleaded with him. "Mr. Vance, please. I swear to you, I would never touch your equipment. I just do my job." I didn't see anything, my desperation only seemed to fuel their certainty. Marcus took a step closer, his face inches from mine, his breath smelling of stale coffee and rage. "You are a nobody in this company. You are a liability. That prototype is worth more than you'll make in 10 lifetimes. If you broke it, or God forbid, you stole it, I will personally see to it that you spend the rest of your miserable life in prison." He was shouting now, his spittle hitting my cheek. I flinched back, my eyes welling with tears of pure humiliation. I looked around at the faces in the crowd. Some looked away, ashamed. Others watched with a kind of morbid curiosity. No one spoke up. No one defended me. In that moment, I had never felt more alone, more worthless. I was just a simple man they had decided to crush. I opened my mouth to beg one last time, to appeal to some shred of humanity I hoped was left in him, when a new voice cut through the air. It was calm, clear, and carried an authority that silenced the entire lobby in an instant. "That will be quite enough, Mr. Vance." Every head turned. There, standing at the top of the grand staircase, was Alara. She was dressed in a simple but elegant navy blue dress, her hands resting lightly on the railing. She looked serene, but I knew her better than anyone. I could see the storm gathering in her eyes. I felt a fresh wave of panic. What was she doing here? I didn't want her to see this, to be drawn into my shame. Marcus squinted up at her, annoyed by the interruption. And who are you? This is a private corporate matter. Security is on its way to handle this. Person, he gestured dismissively at me. Elara didn't even glance at him. Her eyes were fixed on me, her expression softening with a profound sadness, and love that felt like a physical shield. She descended the stairs, her movements graceful and unhurried. The crowd parted for her, as if by an invisible force. She walked directly to me, ignoring the stunned looks of Marcus and his cronies, and gently took my trembling hand in hers. She turned my hand over, saw the calluses from years of hard work, and squeezed it gently. "Are you all right, my love?" she asked, her voice just for me. The lobby erupted in confused whispers. "My love." I heard someone mutter. Marcus's jaw went slack. He looked from Elara's expensive, understated elegance to my worn-out janitor's uniform, the cognitive dissonance causing his brain to practically short-circuit. I don't understand," Clarice stammered. "What is going on?" Elara finally turned her attention from me, and the warmth in her eyes vanished, replaced by glacial ice. She looked directly at Marcus, and for the first time, I saw the man who thought he was a titan shrink before my very eyes. "You asked who I am, Mr. Vance," she said, her voice echoing with quiet power. "My name is Elara Sterling. And you are standing in the lobby of my building, threatening and humiliating my husband." If a bomb had gone off, the effect would have been less dramatic. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. Marcus Vance's face went from red to a ghostly white. Clarice looked like she was about to faint, her hand flying to her mouth. Kevin, the young opportunist, seemed to be actively trying to merge with the potted plant behind him. They stared at me, at the man they had treated like dirt for years, and for the first time, they truly saw me. They saw me holding the hand of the woman who owned their entire world. "But he's a janitor," Marcus whispered, the words sounding foolish even to his own ears. "Yes," Elara replied, her voice dangerously soft. "He is. He is a man who takes pride in his work. A man who shows up every day without complaint. A man of integrity, humility, and kindness. Qualities, I'm afraid, that are in very short supply in your executive suite." She let that hang in the air for a moment before continuing, her gaze sweeping over the assembled employees. "I have been aware of your conduct for a very long time, Mr. Vance. And yours, Ms. Jennings. I have access to every security camera, every email, every internal message sent within this company. I've seen it all." The coffee accidentally spilled. The doors slammed in his face. The cruel jokes whispered just loud enough for him to hear, all while he quietly cleaned up your messes. She took a step forward, and Marcus involuntarily took a step back. "You judged him by his uniform. You saw a broom in his hand and assumed his mind was empty and his life was worthless. You never once thought to ask his name, to learn about the man who makes this place run. You just saw someone you thought you could step on to make yourselves feel taller." Then, she addressed the missing prototype. "As for your precious Nexus sphere," she said with a dismissive wave of her hand, "perhaps if you weren't so busy terrorizing my husband, you would have remembered that you yourself moved it. You took it to the executive lounge to show it off to the board members during a pre-briefing. My husband, Arthur, actually saw it there this morning, sitting on a coffee table under a pile of your presentation notes. He tried to report it to your assistant, but she, of course, told him not to bother than important people with trivial matters." She paused, letting the full weight of their incompetence and cruelty settle over them. The silence was absolute. You could hear a pin drop on the marble floor. "Security is indeed on its way," Elara said, her voice now crisp and final. "But they are not for him. They are for you three. You are fired, effective immediately. Your access has been revoked. You will be escorted from the premises. Do not bother cleaning out your desks, we will have their contents mailed to you. In trash bags, the final insult was delivered with surgical precision. The very security guards Marcus had threatened me with arrived, their faces grim and professional. They moved towards Marcus, Clarice, and Kevin, who stood frozen in a state of utter shock. As they were led away, their faces a mask of disbelief and ruin, Ilara addressed the rest of the silent crowd. Let this be a lesson to everyone at Innovate Dynamics, she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. This company was built on innovation, collaboration, and mutual respect. Not arrogance. Not cruelty. The true measure of a person, of their character, is not found in their job title, or the size of their office. It is found in how they treat someone who they believe can do nothing for them. Today, many of you stood by and watched an act of profound cruelty and did nothing. That will change. As of today, we are implementing a new zero-tolerance policy for workplace bullying at every level. Your value here will be measured not just by your work, but by your humanity. She then turned to me, her expression softening once more. Artie, she said softly. You can have any job in this company you want. Name it, and it's yours. I looked at my wife, this incredible, powerful woman, who had just defended my honor in a way I never could have imagined. I squeezed her hand. Thank you, Ilara, I said, my voice thick with emotion. But I'm happy with my job. I would appreciate it if people would learn my name. A small, sad smile touched her lips, and she nodded. They will now, she promised. We walked out of the Innovate Dynamics building that day hand in hand. I was still wearing my janitor's uniform, but for the first time, I didn't feel invisible. People averted their eyes, not out of dismissal, but out of shame. Others offered tentative, respectful nods. They weren't just seeing a janitor anymore. They were seeing Arthur Sterling, the husband of their CEO, a man who had more quiet dignity in his little finger than Marcus Vance had in his entire body. The world hadn't changed, but their perception of it had. And that made all the difference. So the next time you see someone you think is just a janitor, or just a cashier, or just a waiter, remember my story. You never know whose life you're a part of, and you never, ever know who's watching. True strength isn't about looking down on others, it's about having the grace to lift them up. Smash that like button if you agree, and let me know in the comments if you've ever seen karma deliver a lesson quite like this. And please, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that prove kindness always, always wins in the end.